Hello, we're at lesson number 2, and this has to do with subtracting fractions, and I think you'll find this even faster, maybe a little bit easier. So I'm going to jump right into it. Um, so again, you can freeze your screen and you can record whatever's going on here. So don't hesitate to, press stop and then write everything that's down in your notes. Okay. And there is research that says if you write it down, you're going to do way better. So be sure and do that. Okay. So freeze the screen, copy this down, and then press play and we'll continue. All right. Subtracting fractions, there's a rule. It's the same as adding. Line up your decimals and then subtract. Note, there is a little note here that I've added to it though. You want to always put the smaller number on the bottom. Okay, that's kind of really important that you always do that because otherwise it's kind of harder to subtract something bigger from something smaller. It becomes all messed up. So if I have this equation here, 15.2 minus 0.184, well, this is less than 1 here, so this is 15, so the smaller number is this one on the right here. So I'm going to line them up very simply, 15.2, and I'm going to keep my decimal points lined up, as it says here in my rule, line up the decimals. So I've got 0.184. This is a good example, and I'm going to tell you why in a second here, okay? And then remember I told you in the last lesson, put your decimal point right there so you don't forget it. All right. All right. Now here's why it's kind of a good example. Because if you look here, how do I subtract this stuff over here when there's nothing up here? Okay, what do I do? Can you guess? You're going to fill in zeros. Okay, so I'm going to just fill in my zeros here. And then you would do it the same way you would normally do it, where you borrow. So I can't subtract 4 from 0. I'm going to come all the way over to here to 2, cross it out and make it a 1, bring over the 1, makes that a 10, cross that out and make it a 9 because I'm borrowing, and bring the 1 all the way over. Okay? Then I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to get 8 from 9 is 1, 1 from 1 is 0. I've already got my decimal point in the right place. I'm not subtracting anything over here, so I've got 15.016. Okay, so that's the rule. Line them up. You'll notice one more time if I show you visually here, I've got all my decimals lined up here, and you want to always be sure that you are doing that. All right, second example, I've got 2.32 over here minus 2.68, which or 3.2, excuse me. The 3.2 is a bigger decimal, so that's on top, 3.2, and then 2.68. And I'll just do this real fast. Again, I've got the same scenario here where I have nothing over here to borrow from. So I'm going to fill in a 0. I'm going to, oh, I forgot to put my decimal down here. I got in such a hurry. I'm going to put a 1 here, borrow the 1 here. 8 from 10 is 2. 6 cannot subtract from 1, so I'm going to borrow from the 3 and make that a 2. Makes this an 11. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is 5, and 2 from 2 is 0, so it's 0.52. Okay, that's a couple of examples of subtracting um, decimals. Now, let me just look at a practice problem here. Here's down here on the screen, I do have a practice problem. And if you look at number 3 at the bottom of the screen here, I've got 13 minus 0.9932. So I would go 13. I'm just going to go point and put in a couple zeros here. And then I'm going to go 0.932. So that's 0.932. I'm not going to do this whole problem. I'm just going to show you how I would do it though. And since I've got a 2 with nothing above it, I'm going to fill in a 0. And then I'm going to start subtracting and borrowing. Okay? So that is how to subtract. And I want to show you a story problem, an example of a story problem or two. We already looked at the top one, but let's look at the bottom one here. Okay? It says from a board, so like a piece of board here. Okay? From a board that is, there's my board, 2 meters long. Okay? Call and cut off a piece 1.67 meters long. How long was the piece that was left? Now, when you're doing story problems, when they ask for how much is left or how much more is this, okay, you might want to write these down as keywords for subtracting. How much is left, or what is the difference, the difference, okay, as I like to say with my French accent. All right. When you have words like this, it means subtract. How much is left? How much more is it? How much? What's the difference? Probably going to be subtracting. Here's what I would do. I've got 2 whole meters. Point. I'm going to put some zeros here. Okay. That's this first term here. Okay. And then the second one, I have 1.67. Same rule. Line up your decimals. And then, like I taught you earlier, put the decimal down here. Then start subtracting and borrowing. Okay. All right, here's a little story problem tip in general, though. You might want to write this down that I found that the best and first tip sometimes for helping students with story problems is to look at the numbers in the equation, like this one here at the top here. I've got 3.7, I've got 0.45, I've got, and you can just circle them, but I always encourage my students just put the numbers, literally put the numbers on a piece of paper. And oftentimes it starts becoming kind of more clear what to do with them. Some sentences, many students, whatever country you're from, they have a little bit of trouble when it's in a sentence figuring out what's being asked to be done. So watch for the keywords like more than, less than, or the sum or total, and also put the numbers on paper, and that'll give you some help. Okay. All right. I hope that was helpful to you, and let me know if you have questions. Be sure and send me some kind of an email or something. But I hope this was helpful.